All right, guys. So yesterday I reported on how Kamala Harris has historically low unfavorability ratings. Okay, she's just historically unlikable, even though she hasn't really done anything. Right? She's just unlikable, and that's showing up in the polls. Now, we have this new poll that has come out that has again shown that the GOP really all they have to do is just not mess this up, and they're probably going to cruise to victory come 2022 and take back the House, possibly the Senate, and be sitting pretty for 2024. As a new poll shows that the GOP leads Democrats in 2022 enthusiasm by double digits. Let's read a little bit more here. Enthusiasm for Republicans in the 2022 midterm elections outpaces Democrats by double digits, with most GOP voters also remaining loyal to former President Donald Trump, a new poll reveals. While engagement has leveled off for both parties since the record high turnout in the 2020 race for the White House, a Democracy Corps survey found that 68% of Republicans remain engaged ahead of 2022. Meanwhile, Democrats have seen their engagement slip by 57%, a 11-point cushion for the GOP. All right, so this makes perfect sense. It aligns with history. Historically, we've seen how during midterms, because there's a lull period, people just kind of check out of politics. Typically, the party that takes the White House, they'll lose come midterms, right? And with conservatives being much more engaged than the Democrats, right, being more upset about what's going on. This sets up the ground for the GOP to win in 2022. Joe Biden is boring, right? A lot of people have checked out of what Biden's actually doing because he's boring. He doesn't really say anything. For all the bad things he's doing, the media is not doing a good job of covering him. They're trying to make sure people focus on Trump. But like I've told you guys before in the past, like, for as much as the media goes after the GOP and they want to connect Trump and the GOP together, they got to understand that Trump's not running in 2022, right? If Trump's not running in 2022, you're not going to have a mass of people going out here voting against Trump. And they're trying to continue to bring up the past, continue to talk about the Capitol, continue to talk about the election, because they want to keep this negative image in people's heads about Trump and the GOP, thinking that people are going to go out in 2022 and vote against the GOP, thinking that they're voting against Trump. And I just don't think that that's what's actually going to happen. I think a lot of Democrats are just disengaged at this point. They feel like they got their victory and they're done with it, right? I really do feel like a lot of them feel that way. Okay, I mean, Democrats barely won in 2020. Okay, they barely won the House and they barely won the Senate. Matter of fact, I mean, they were projected to blow out the House and the Senate, and that didn't happen. Republicans actually took seats in the House and, again, barely lost the Senate. I mean, they technically tied the Senate with Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. And to me, in my opinion, I think this all signals that come 2022, the GOP has a major advantage historically and considering the current data that we have. Let's read a little bit more here. The survey also found that Republican voters remain firmly in the camp of Trump, with only 16% of Republicans identifying as non-Trump conservatives in battleground states, which most likely decide the balance of power. Only 9% of Republican voters identify themselves as part of the same group. The survey comes as the GOP plots its path forward in hopes of taking back control in Congress in 2022. Recently decided to remove Representative Liz Cheney from her leadership position in the party for continuing to be a vocal critic of the former president. All right. So basically, it says that most people, most of the party, an overwhelming majority of the party still backs former President Trump, right? I mean, overwhelming majority. Again, only 16% identifying as non-Trump conservatives. 16%, only 16%. And it's funny because the media keeps asking the GOP, well, why don't you detach yourself from Trump? Why don't you go after Trump? Why don't you attack Trump? Why don't you cut Trump off? How can you cut somebody off that has the support of over 84% of the party? 84% of the party identifies themselves as Trump conservatives. You can't cut those people off. That's why I think that the conversation with the media in regards to the GOP is so silly. It really is. Now, I do think the GOP civil war is fascinating because this is something I've been covering ever since the election. I've been covering this ever since it became clear that McConnell and Trump are going to go at each other's throats. I've been covering it, okay? Because I'm just fascinated by the politics. I'm not covering it to try to divide. That's not why I'm covering it. I'm covering it for the purposes of news. But on the other hand, the media is covering it for the purposes of using it as an excuse not to cover the Biden administration. Because as low as their ratings are right now, their ratings will be even lower if they started talking about the Biden administration and all they talked about was how great everything is under Biden, right? I'm going to tell you something. Listen, positive news coverage doesn't get eyeballs, right? It doesn't get eyeballs. You have to be talking about something negative to get people to watch your stuff, okay? That's just how it is, okay? And the news media understands that. So they're going to cover the GOP civil war and make this a huge deal over all the negative things that Biden is doing for this country because they don't really want to cover Biden negatively. Okay, they're actively working to help the Democrats maintain the House and the Senate in 2022. That's what's happening. However, as you can see, because Democrat engagement is so much lower than Republican engagement, that strategy is really not going to work. It's really not going to work. Because your target audience is disengaged from politics. Like I told you guys before, they don't really care anymore. Orange man out of White House, they think they've accomplished their goal. They don't really care what Biden does. Okay, and them being not engaged gives them a significant disadvantage come midterms in 2022 because they don't know what the hell is going on. They don't know what the hell is going on. All the Republicans got to do is just stay out of the news, right? That's all they got to do. Just stay out of the news. Don't do anything stupid. Don't have people like Liz Cheney go out there and give the liberal media more ammunition to talk negatively about Trump and the GOP, and you're good. Just make it so the liberal media has to start talking negatively about the Biden administration because that's what they will do. That's what they will do because the media needs ratings. If the GOP just stays out of the way, don't do anything stupid, don't be in the media, really, you don't have to say anything. Don't answer questions that you don't need to answer. Stop talking about the Capitol. Stop talking about the election. That way, the liberal media will start to cover the Biden administration negatively because they will need the ratings. In order to get ratings, to get eyeballs, you got to talk negative. That's just how it is. And that's why Liz Cheney got kicked to the curb because she wasn't really trying to change anybody's minds. She wasn't really trying to talk to the conservative audience about the election and how she feels about Trump. That's not what she was doing. What she was doing is that she was going out there talking to the liberal media, giving them ammunition to go after Trump, to go after the party, because she wanted to make sure that, well, even though the whole party is aligned with Trump, I'm going to make sure that I'm on the right side of history and I'm going to make myself look good for DC insiders and the elites in Washington, D.C. and the Democrat Party. That's all it is. She's trying to impress the establishment. That's all it's about for her. Okay? Because that's who she is. She's establishment. Establishment Democrats, establishment Republicans, they're basically the same. Let's be real. So, a lot of these established Republicans, these anti-Trumpers, a lot of them like being a part of the circle. Okay? They like being a part of the club. That's what it's about. And they don't want the stigma of being associated with Trump while being a part of the club. That's why you kick Liz Cheney to the curb. You nominate somebody like Elise Stefanik, who's going to go out there and say all the right things. You're not going to say anything stupid and at least make it appear that the GOP is unified and not in opposition to Trump. That's all they got to do. Just don't be in opposition to the guy that over 80% of your base supports. And the liberal media is trying their best to play up this GOP civil war narrative, not for balanced real news coverage, but purely distract from what's going on with the Biden administration. And the GOP, their main goal right now is to keep the focus on the Biden administration, right? Keep the focus on inflation. Keep the focus on the border crisis. Keep the focus on the fuel crisis. Keep the focus on what's going on in the Middle East. Keep the focus on the Biden administration. So come 2022, they can win on a united front because they're all united in opposition to Biden, right? The GOP wants to be united in opposition to Biden. That's what they want to be. The goal of the GOP is to be united in opposition to Biden and not appear to be against Trump. That's what it is. This information, this data, it plays very well for the GOP. It really does. It shows that they're right in their calculations in terms of standing behind Trump. Because, again, if they was to go out there and be against Trump, there's no way they can win whatsoever, especially considering how a lot of the base has lost faith in our democratic process. You got to be united, man. You can't be going back and forth with the Liz Cheneys of the world and Adam Kinzinger's of the world. You got to get rid of those people. Okay, you have to appear to be united against Biden and just go from there. That's just how it is. Hey, GOP is set up to win in 2022 in a landslide. They just got to not mess it up. That's all it is at this point. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.